Hey, Dave from road.cc here. Today we're looking at electric road bikes. Now if you haven't seen an electric road bike before, where have you been? They're everywhere. But there are quite a few of them out now in the market. They're lighter weight electric bikes, so they have a smaller motor, a smaller battery in a road frame. So what you get is you get part-time assistance. You get assistance when you need it on the hills, and then when you're riding along on the flat. You're generally above the 25 km/h assistance limit anyway, so it's just like riding a slightly heavier normal bike. Now there are two main ways of powering an electric bike. The first is with a mid motor, which replaces the bottom bracket and it drives the cranks directly. And the second is with a hub motor, which sits in the middle of the wheel and powers the wheel. Now electric road bikes predominantly use two systems, and luckily it's one of both. So there's a Fazua system from Germany, that's a mid motor with the battery and the down tube. And there's the e-bike motion system, which is from Spain, and that again is a down tube mounted battery but a rear hub motor. Now we've got one of each of those types of motor today. We've got one Fazua motor, that's in a Pinarello Nitro. That's their e-road bike based on their GAN frame. We've got it in a SRAM Force build and it's £6,000. And weighs about 14 kilos all in. So it's a little bit heavier than the other bike we've got, which is a wilier 101 hybrid. That uses the e-bike motion system, which is about a kilo lighter. It weighs about 3.5 kilos, whereas the Fazua is about 4.5. And that bike all in is 12.5 kilos. That's using Ultegra Di2 and it comes in at £4,200. So what we really wanted to do was find out which of the motors was the best. So we've come to a local hill. This is our Bath CC hill climb hill that we use every year. It goes from Wellow to Hinton Charterhouse. It's about 1 kilometre long at an average of about 10%. So quite a challenge. I'm going to ride up the hill on both bikes using my Garmin pedals as a reference. I'm going to put out the same power up the climb and we're going to see which one's fastest. It's as simple as that. So let's head out to the hill and see how we get on. On we go. So we're back at the cafe, and how did it all work out? Well, I did 2 runs on each bike. I tried to keep my power to about 3 watts per kilo, which for me is just about 280 watts. And I pretty much hit that each time. I mean, there's a steep bit at the start of the hill where you have to go a bit harder and then you can kind of slacken off as you go a bit further up. But each time I did it on the 2 bikes, they were within a couple of seconds of each other. The wilier, I did it in, the fastest time was 3:35, and the Pinarello, my fastest time was 3:52. So the Pinarello is a little bit slower, but also the Pinarello is a little bit heavier. It's about 1.5 kilos heavier than the wilier. So that obviously affects the overall weight of me and the bike a little bit, and that adds a little bit to the time. I know personally that if I lose a bit of weight, then I know I can go faster up the hills, and you know, it's the same with the bike. So in terms of how much power the 2 bikes are putting out, it's probably comparable. It's probably about the same, and you know, it felt about the same going up there. It's not an easy hill to ride, but it is an easy hill to ride when you've got a motor, and 3:35 is considerably faster than I've done it under my own steam, even though I wasn't actually going that hard. 3 watts per kilo isn't particularly hard for me. So it was a good test of the two bikes, and both of the systems work very well. They both give you a really useful extra push up the hill. They're both reasonably quiet, although the wilier with its e-bike motion system is, I would say, quieter than the Pinarello with the mid-motor, with the Fazua mid-motor. So it's horses for courses, really. I mean, both systems work very well. One thing you can do with the Pinarello that you can't do with the wilier is that you can drop the Fazua system out entirely. The bottom bracket stays in the bike. That adds about 1 kilo to the weight, and then you can take the motor and the battery out and ride it like a normal bike. So if you want to have a bike that you can ride as an assisted bike, but then have it as a standard bike as well, that's something you can do with the Pinarello that the wilier doesn't offer. So overall, if it was my money, I think I'd probably go for the wilier. For a start, it's cheaper, it's 1,800 quid cheaper, that's a fair chunk of cash. I think the integration is slightly better. There's a little bit less mass in the down tube, and you don't really notice the hub motor. It's a lighter bike, and it's a little bit quieter too. So, and also, it was a little bit quicker up the climb, so, you know, every second counts. So thanks for watching. If you've got any questions about either of these two bikes, either of these two systems, ask them in the comments below. We'll get them answered for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this on Road.cc. Cheers.